an Antiguan and a Trini writer walk into a Zoom. I'm looking forward to this one. Um, I'm about to enter Kevin Jared Hosein's creative space. Thanks for sitting with me, Kevin. It's great to have you here so we can talk about all of your writing, but especially this story that had me fangirling and reaching out to you. I know your writing career has leveled up because you're no longer posting on social media with the regularity. Um, I let me put this into context why I say his post. So, okay, from he's a post about everything from Fury Road. You're the one who actually got me to watch Fury Road, by the way. I was not interested in it before I saw your post, and then I watched it, and I was like, okay, okay. Um, or even your exploration. I remember your post about Chandapal, that signing that you went to, and to me that was a good, an interesting framing of his relationship with the Caribbean. I thought whether that was intentional or not. I don't know if you remember that post. That was forever ago. Um, you posted the colossal post about writing and publishing in the Caribbean, which I thought was so important that I asked you if I could reshare it on my platform because it's like all the things that I have not, and I've been at this, I think, longer than you because I'm older than you, but like all the things I've not been able to compile in, as succinctly and as fully as you did about the journey. Really, really valuable. Um, the King of Settlement 4, that was a short story that won you, I think, your first, would you say your first major award? Was the
Yeah, yeah.
Commonwealth Regional Prize.
The regional prize for the short, yeah, Commonwealth Short Story
Yeah.
Prize.
And I remember reaching out to you to tell you, to ask you that, about using it in one of my workshops because I just thought it was such an, re- as dark as the story is, I'm going to say refreshing perspective because it's a niche of Caribbean existence, of Trinidadian existence that I felt like I hadn't really seen before. And that's always the thing about your writing is the lens is not like anyone else's. It's very specific. I mean, obviously, your science background, you were a science teacher for a long time, for 10 years, I think. So that comes into play. Your Trini background, perhaps even the fact that you have self said in some of those social media posts that you were not an avid reader. So you're coming to it not from a bookish perspective, but from a lived perspective, maybe. I don't know. Tell us how you see yourself as a writer. Is anything that I'm saying resonating with you, or am I totally off the mark?
No, I think that when you say, I mean, to me, I just maybe it is that I don't have the academic background behind it that um, allowed me to form my own lens of writing. The so I didn't grow up as an avid reader as a, well in my childhood, and I would say an avid reader of books, right? So because and that's not really the fault of books. I think that was more the fault of the books that were presented to me. I just didn't have the interest in them. So like when it came to like Robin Hood and Oliver Twist, the typical foreign childhood books, it didn't do anything for me. And what actually did stuff for me was when I used to play Japanese video games, role-playing games like Final Fantasy, and those were long form stories. The writing wasn't great, but it was filled with, mythology, and it's you got to immerse yourself and experience the story as it went along, and in some cases impact the story on your own. And when I started writing fan fiction. So I wanted to create my own video games. And so the things I didn't care about the technique of it that much. But as I got more into it, I realized that those were things that I had to care about. And I had to, I wouldn't say self-teach. I had to, delve those kind of how like Stephen King's on writing and a bunch of like
I love
articles
that.
online.
Love Stephen King's
Yeah,
handwriting.
yeah, and then had to I was like, I need to experience many different types of books. So I went into, I guess, books that weren't really of the curriculum. And, I could have done that. And I didn't have to read curriculum books. When I say like, literary curriculum books, um, that would, I guess, take up the time. So I just kind of read anything. And this was as a teenager. I just kind of read anything that I got my hands on, whether it was fiction or nonfiction. And I used to observe the styles, I used to observe the points of view. And even like I would pick up more controversial types of literature as well and just see like how you could explore the same topic, but from a different point of view, from a villain's point of view or, from a murderer's point of view or whatever. And the things where morality isn't so great because in the Caribbean, the reading books that we were given, not literature, but the primary school reading books, a lot of them had morals to the story, and yeah, it's almost like it had to be implanted in there. And I don't know, that's like just that sort of thing. Not that I'm an immoral person, but it's just that sort of
But
thing. It's like it's
it's always
predictable.
interesting to come into the
Yeah,
story through the sort of unexpected view. So I have to correct something that I said, and you're very polite not to have corrected me. When I said Chanderpaul, I meant
yes,
Naipaul.
Nightfall. Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm not going to edit it. We're
That's how we
moving
would
forward.
smooth it
Moving
out.
forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Why do I have
yeah.
cricket on
Not
the
I,
brain? I
I
don't
didn't
know.
mean I didn't mean the cricketer. Yeah, midnight wall.
But you've been so busy. Something you said just now. I wanted to go on and say you've been so busy, so you haven't been doing the social media as much because I do want to name drop your book, The Repenters. Oh God, my mind is blanking. The first one, the one that you self-published,
Little Town Secrets.
Town Secrets, which is one of the
Yeah.
few books I got my nephew reading. One of the very few books I got my
Uh,
nephew reading. Um, and then, of course, you've won awards for just list your books so that the people know all the things you've been doing.
Little Town Secrets, which was self-published. And, that's more of a young, very young adult children's type of book. The Repenters, which was published by People Tree Press. The Beast of Cuckoo, which the Brit Code Award, which you have as well. It's won second place for that. And also, well, the latest one is Hungry Ghosts.
Hungry Ghosts,
Yeah,
yes, which has been getting you a lot of international acclaim
yeah.
from what I've seen. And I imagine that part of the reason that you're being very disciplined about being off social media is that you're busy working on other things, which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, which is that's actually what I've been doing. So like right now we're in the process of editing another one, but you wouldn't see that probably for a year or so.
Just on a roll, though. Just on a roll,
Yeah.
though. I mean, as someone who's been struggling with my own, because I've been working on a short story collection, and it feels like it's been forever that I've been working on
Mm.
it. Um, when I see you guys roll out things so quickly, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's the off social media thing. Maybe that's the key. But I do want to say something that you said that I found interesting is that the fan fiction part of it, because I have found that fan fiction is actually a good way to, because fan fiction is about filling the gaps, right? Like if you like an IP, if you like a story, whether it's a movie or a game or whatever, and you're wondering, well, what happened after that? And what does this other character think? Or what if these two characters got together and you write that? So you're coming at the story from a different point of view. So a lot of people dismiss it, but for me, it's been interesting how it can help you see many ways that the same scene, the same scenario can play out, and you can go to dark play. And also, it's very like you said about the stories that we were taught in the story has to have a moral. The story is um, they're not as concerned with that. In fact, they lean into the darkness in fan fiction that I've seen. So it's kind of frees you to realize that, anything goes. when it comes to story, as long as you make it interesting.
Well, that was the thing that was incredibly freeing to me about storytelling is that thing that anything goes. I think like when I didn't really start to like sit down and write, not thinking like I would be a writer or anything like that, but I used to just do it when I was 11 and 12. And that was when I would write fan fiction. And then the thing about fan fiction as well is I didn't used to publish it or anything like that, but like put it on a site, is that even that could be constricting because even that you probably have to stick to the canon of the characters and the story. And then eventually, like my, fan fiction would become its own thing. And that was what I really liked about writing is that I could make anything I want. Like literally, I could write anything and it would become real in a
Yeah.
sense and
Yeah.
would become an ongoing thing. That's what I used to do when I come home from school. Like people have soap operas, they come home and they watch every day. That was like my soap opera. I would come home and I'd be like, oh, I know what they're gonna do next. And that's what it just became habitual.
What's
Yeah.
amazing thing though, that's for me, that's
Yeah.
when writing is really working, when you're wondering what these characters gonna do next. Because it's almost voyeuristic. I mean, yes, you're writing it, but you don't really know. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm.
the discovery of it that can be really exciting as a writer for me. And I'm hearing echoes of that in what you're saying. So let's talk about the script. The script
Mm.
is a short story that you have in a forthcoming collection that's published by Pcash with Proper Foundation and I believe one other organization. I'll put that on the screen, but it's about climate justice. Tell the people the title of the collection.
Pardon, can you repeat that?
Can you tell us the title of the collection?
Yes, the title of the collection is Writing for Our Lives. There might be a subtitle in there that you'll have to put in after, but yeah, Writing for Our Lives.
So I saw a preview of this or I'm actually reading the preview right now, which includes, I believe, six of the stories. Um, and yours jumped out at me so much that I had to reach out to you. And I'll be honest with you, it didn't jump out to me right at the jump. It's like it seduced me as I went along. Um, and so I want to frame the story a little bit. It's a story about could be an alternate reality or our future reality, but um, the things that we've ignored in terms of what climate scientists have been telling us have come to pass, and we have to make sort of sweeping decisions to, in this particular case, they want to relocate people from one community into like a high rise they have to stay there for like, I don't know, X number of years before they can leave. Um, because the land that they're on is going to be repurposed to save civilization. And they're like, hell no, we won't go. And these are very poor people. And I think what resonated with me, and so the future tech part of it is that it's robots that are sent in or AI type um, beings that are sent in to remove them. And I say AI type beings because it kind of gave me Terminator vibes, as it's
Mm.
calculating, okay, this is how this person is responding. Just the original Terminator, just how you were inside of
Mm.
his perspective, um, kind of seeing how he's responding to what people are saying in response to what he's saying. But the AI part of it is him learning as the story progresses. And I say learning because there's a code, am I spoiling it? There's something inside of him that's that makes him something of an anomaly. And it's something human. I actually looked it up, the actual reference, and I was like, oh, this is a real thing. Okay. That's the science part of you, this. But so he started navigating these people who are being unreasonable, like, move. Your water is not going to be drinkable. Your land is not going like it doesn't make sense. But we humans, we don't make sense, and we lead with our hearts, right? And so he can't get it until he starts to get it, and that switch that's the turning of the story that makes it interesting for me. But the part of the story that hooked me, and I'll let you talk after this, is when he said, let me try and find the exact quote because I was like, oh, I felt that in my chest. felt that in my chest. It was so okay. It was something like we're looking to let me find it. Let me find it. In the meantime, tell us about the inspiration for the story. I'm gonna find a quote. Oh, I found the quote. So I'll read a little bit. Do you not tire of living in darkness? I asked Hera. Hera is one of the leaders of the resisting humans. Mush, he balls his fists up. He's the only one unarmed. We want none of what you're offering. Mush. I addressed the residents holed up in houses behind them. Kindly understand that this is for the benefit of humanity. Who humanity? A voice from the bed-sheeted window. That line is the line that got me.
Mm.
Because, yeah, who humanity? Like what are you talking about? It's not us. It's not just the way you frame that question. Who is the humanity you're talking about? Oh, as Martin Scorsese would say, cinema. Um, do you get why that affected me? Because like, was that intentional? Was that the hook for us as a
Yeah,
reader?
it's intentional. It's ironic because, as I said, is the story is told from the point of view of a robotic emissary, like a type of artificial intelligence, and is speaking about humanity and is lecturing humans about humanity. And that's the ironies about it, and that it doesn't itself understand humanity. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about Kirk Hera later on, but yeah, is the irony of it. And then it's like, who's humanity? And is it the humanity of us, or are we lesser humans than those that the fungus, the big growl that's affecting the soils of the world were affecting? Because these people, when we first meet Hera, he has a crucifix. We're not totally sure who's narrating at first.
Yeah.
You eventually figure out it's a type of robotic AI, and he has a crucifix on his arm,
Mhm.
and these are people to be crucified and sacrificed for
Mm.
others.
Symbolism,
Uh,
people, symbolism.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, it was intentional.
Beautiful. I think there were echoes for me. It's fictional, obviously, but um, I I live in Antigua, and in my lifetime I've seen two communities that I can recall wholly relocated, and the people
Mm,
fought for their life to hold on to what would look to people with big money like nothing. Like it's just some
mm.
shacks that is, you have open gutters and you have nothing. Why would you want to stay here? And that idea that because it's home, right? And the idea that people with, I mean, yes, it's a robot, but beyond the robot are people making decisions. And the humanity beyond the human, non-human element of it is also that classist element of it for me. I don't know if that was intentional, that sometimes when politicians and big money people make money that makes sense to them, the humanity at the bottom of the rung is like it's like an afterthought. And that's the thing that the story I think drove home or reinforced or reflected. And I want to know if that was intentional and if it was inspired by anything in particular.
Yeah, so it is about, I would say, technological pride and elitism, because have you the name of the company in the story is Antaeus, and is the Antaeus company that's running these AIs and building the Arcadias, that's the high rises, to save humanity. And Antaeus was the son of Gaia, who,
Oh.
the Mother Earth, right?
Mhm.
And what I was thinking about, there's the old gods, these old Greek gods, and there's almost a sort of, the companies ascribe to them a sort of apotheosis, a sort of godliness to themselves. And I don't know if you've ever heard, I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you ever heard of Palantir. You ever heard of that?
I'm not sure. Mm.
Right, so
It's not,
Palantir is, Yeah, so that's in Lord of the Rings, right? You know, the
Mhm.
Eye of Sauron, and there's this ball that they could see through,
Okay, yes, okay,
and they're carrying this ball. Yeah, so that's called the Palantir. I don't think it's actually
okay.
spoken
And
in
I
the
was just
movie.
rewatching. I was just
Yeah,
rewatching Lord of the Rings. It didn't
yeah.
click into.
I don't think they actually say the word
Okay,
in the movie, but that's the
okay,
Palantir. It's like the
okay,
all-seeing eye, right?
okay.
So, but it's also the name of a company that works with ICE in America, for immigration to locate and deport, right? Immigrants. And they work with social media companies to sort of um, pass through all this information to see who is saying bad things about who. And we're looking for, where to locate these people so we can deport them. I thought that, and it's kind of like the all-seeing eye of Sauron. So is strange that they named that company Palantir, which is, I mean, is a villainous thing in the movie, right? It's part of Sauron. And to me, it's like a sort of hubris to when you have these corporations and companies now, and they do it under the guise of wanting to make humanity better.
Yeah.
That's why this happens. So when the Antaeus, set up these terror sentries, and they almost do a sort of cultural appropriation thing because they set up these sentries not just in the Caribbean, they do it in Indonesia as well. They do it in Mauritius, in Africa, and Seychelles, and they fashion them as gods or
Mm.
folklore of
Mhm.
those regions. So like
Yeah,
the
that
one in
part was
the
interesting
yeah,
that you tied it into all of the. I was going to say indigenous folklore, but some of it is the folklore, the Creole folklore, the folklore of the people that came, the African people as well, not just the um, original people. And
yeah,
so it's almost things that people are already connected to, used to manipulate them, playing on their fears or
yeah,
their the deification that they already have for some of these,
yeah.
you know, things. It's yeah, I saw that element was interesting. Just the way you work in um just the way you work, because just now you said a whole lot about mythology and technology and the current fascistic reality that we're living, but also just the sort of grassroots things that make us. All of these elements are in the story. And then of course it's also future. It's also Afrofuturist. I don't know if you think of it like that, but it feels that way to me. Um, Perhaps because I'm Black and it's a Caribbean story, so I'm reading it through that lens as well. But I don't know. I
It
find it,
will hit different for a Caribbean dwelling person like
yeah,
us. Yeah.
yeah. Also, just the element of, okay, before I go on, the community, is that based on a specific community?
It's not based on a specific community, but I just based it on honestly I was thinking of something like the red zone in St. Vincent, when they had the volcanic eruption and you
Yeah,
had these people that kind of, is gonna hit them and they didn't want to move.
yeah,
Um, but I was thinking about something like that. But imagine that you can't see the volcano. You don't know what's happening. It's just this robot telling you that this may be coming. So not a specific community, but just, the idea of it.
yeah, yeah. I think about, like you just mentioned St. Vincent. I mean, for those of us in Antigua, the equally relatable thing would be
Yeah.
the exclusion zone in Montserrat, where, I mean, once the volcano was active and people were still going into the exclusion zone because that's where their homes were, that's where their farms were, or whatever. And some people died. As I remember it, it was a while ago, but just the idea that people can tell you, get to higher ground. And there's another story in the book that kind of touches on that. But when you are poor, when you have very little, it's like sometimes when I hear hurricane warnings and they tell people batten down and stock up and do this and do that, sometimes it's like, with what money? all I can do is sit here because I have nothing, you know?
Mm.
And you tell me to leave, but there's so much uncertainty in the leaving that we wonder why people take desperate actions, whether it's to go or stay. You mentioned ICE. I think about the people who risk everything to go to America, for instance. And I feel like this story exists in that space of bringing an understanding to those most desperate of people who make choices that seem irrational because it's not about rationality, it's about humanity, it's about life. Um, how long did it take you to write this story? When did you feel you had a grasp on it?
Honestly, when I write short stories, they typically just take a day or 2 days. But that's just, nature. But it would refine like over time. But to just get the stuff down, it would be like 2 days for the most.
Okay, so if there are any
Yeah.
budding story writers listening to this, I think the takeaway from that is you have to amass all this knowledge and experience and curiosity and all these things so that when you
Yeah.
sit to write, all of it just kind of comes out onto the page. Because yes, you would have to stop and um, um, do some research and so on when you're revising. But that first draft is all the things that you already exist
Yeah.
in you, in your head, in your heart, in your spirit that are coming through. So all the Gaia and the ice and all the stuff, you had that all in here already, and it just kind of came through in the
Yeah,
story.
all of that, like, when you see things happening and you say that, it is a scary story because it feels like something, to me, it feels like something that could actually happen.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
when it comes to small, we're at the whims of much larger and much more powerful countries. It's almost like we have the illusion of autonomy, but we have lots of bigger countries that could possibly just swoop in and say, hey, it's the disease that happens in the story affects the tropics, small island states. And it's like, well, yeah, we need your land. And then the leaders would sell out the land, and take the money. And, people have to leave their communities and move into these high rises.
yeah.
And there's no vote for that. There's no proper protocol or anything like that. All of a sudden, you just have these robots descending onto the land, just telling you, hey, you need to leave your house and go into this thing we built. It feels like, I know it sounds like madness, but it feels like something that it is capable of being done and that it could be done. Where
So that was
things
so
could
was it
just get snatched away from you.
so was it fear that drove you trying to grasp your
But,
own fear about that?
well, when it comes to writing, and especially writing darkness, a lot of it is about addressing fears and taking fears almost that have no name and that you can't really sum up in one sentence. And you're taking that and you are putting that, a feeling into words
Hmm.
to try to get others to experience that fear. Because I think that, we learn we learn through fear and we learn through love. And sometimes, there's a balance of the two. But when it comes to writing stories like these, and I think that's why a lot of sci-fi writers, not that I don't consider myself a sci-fi writer, but they write about dystopia and they write about the possibility of things happening. I mean, even back to the 1940s, 1950s, when they write in 2001 A Space Odyssey, writing about, HAL and AI. And none of that was really a reality yet, but it was the fear of it. It was like you got an idea and you had the fear. And to me, I was thinking about the fear, not so much of AI, but the fear of having just the island that you live in, the space that you occupy could be at the whims of others, and they could just come and take it away from you at any time and tell you to move out. We need to save, as they say, who humanity, right?
For
Who
humanity.
humanity? Who
Yeah,
matters more?
yeah.
And you would be, they would bang their pots and pans, they would have hashtags and be like, you are the heroes, Caribbean heroes, small island heroes that would save the world. and they
I had,
would,
I had, I
yeah,
had, I had,
yeah.
I had lockdown flashbacks with the banging of the pots of sorry, go ahead.
But that's what happens. And it kind of riles you up. And it's in Trinidad is what we call a big mama guy. It's like, it's just got to make it is to make you feel good to give away what is yours. And that's
Yeah.
the fear that what you have can just be taken away.
I think you said it might seem impossible, or I'm not using the exact words you use, but when you said that, it doesn't feel, I mean, take the particulars away, but I've never felt more uncertain of the future than I do right now in all my years. And a lot of it has to do with the things that are happening in real life. Um, you just spoke about ICE. We see leaders of bigger countries doing things like a toddler in a china shop, just knocking things over without any care. And yes, you're right. We our countries, we have leaders, but we're so small. And um, in reality, there's so much beyond our control. That is the horror of the story for me. And so, having scared the people to death, what do you want people to take from this story? What do we do with it? Do we just feel afraid and go pull the covers over our heads? What do we do with this story? I think it comes back to a question I asked last year in an essay I wrote. Like, what can story do? I know why I write, but when I put it out, what is its purpose? What can it do in a world of darkness?
Well, ironically, like I tried to address that within the story itself, because not to spoil too much, but the kernel, the little piece of code that starts to affect the robot. Like I said, the robot's language changes
Love
in real
that, by
time.
the way. I
At the
love what you
narrate,
did at
yeah,
the end with that. I
yeah,
love what you did at the end with that. That
yeah.
was, yeah,
It is that changes from obeying protocols sharply until now having doubts and not now trying to actually work through persuasion and be like, why are you staying here? You're gonna die a very painful death. And almost to the point of like, and now it then began directly disobeying orders because now it's saying to retaliate. And they're
yeah,
saying, no, I can talk to them. And that's not what it's scripted to do, the script.
yeah,
But the script is not just the code in the robot. The script is also what we as small islands are expected to follow. Like when it comes to the whims of larger countries, the script for those people in the village was to move out, abandon your homes and go to this place. Like we tell you to do that, you will do that. And they refuse to obey the script. Now, when the Alan Sunfist exhibit, so just talking fast here, it is about a group of ants, 2 million army ants that's placed is placed in a glass container and they die. And that is something that was not natural, it's unnatural to put all these ants in this container. And I remember reading about this, and I think it's some chemical that was in the lining of the glass that killed the ants. And the glass container could be those high rises where all
yeah,
those people could die in there. Yeah. So,
yeah. Hmm.
but it is that piece of art, and that is a piece of artwork, just like any story is a piece of artwork, that a small little thing that embeds a seed within this AI, just like a story could be a small little thing that embeds a seed within a mind.
Yeah,
So maybe not make you go out and make no big decision, but make your thinking shift the other way. Because
yeah.
that's what the robot began to do. It's not gonna shoot and kill these people. Instead, it's gonna try to bargain, even though it might not do anything in the end. In the end, they still had a choice to make. They didn't have to follow the script.
So one of the things, would you agree that, because I think about what the robot does at the end, if I'm interpreting that correctly, because that was the part that made me reach out to you, like, did the
Mhm.
robot just do what I think it did? Because that's a game changer if it did.
Yeah,
I'll talk about that off screen. But um, the takeaway then is resist, always resist
yeah,
in ways big and small, resist. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
And resisting is releasing yourself from the
yeah,
script that's
yeah,
put upon you.
yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. You are a
Mhm.
great writer, my friend. You are a great
Mhm.
writer. You are, you're doing the damn thing. You're doing the damn thing. The collection is, let me make sure I get the title right. Writing for Our Lives. It's a Caribbean climate justice anthology. It's put out by the Cropper Foundation, Open Society Foundations, and Pikash Press. I want to thank you, Kevin, for sitting with me today and staying off, being the model for all of us to stay off social media and go write the damn story and them.